Visibility matters, and the backlash is proof. Hello, my LGBTQTs, and welcome back to another episode of A Jaded Gay. I'm Rob Lovelace, and today I am a non-jaded gay because I've really been enjoying the extra sunlight, and I feel like this always sneaks up on you. Like in February, you start noticing, oh, it's 5:30 and it's not completely dark out yet. And it continues inching forward, and then you hit daylight savings time, and it stays later until like 7. And the extra lightness just really creates a sense of optimism, like we're almost to sunnier days, both literally and metaphorically. Anyway, from the extra sunlight shining on us to shining a light on a very important date, today we're talking about International Transgender Day of Visibility, which happens to be today, March 31st. So happy International Transgender Day of Visibility, everyone. As you know, we've been living in a politically hostile climate for a while now, especially against our trans brothers and sisters. So I wanted to commemorate the importance of today, and we'll be getting into it. But before we do, let's pull our tarot card. So the card we drew for today is the Four of Cups in reverse. Cups, as you'll remember, is tied to the element of water. It's feminine energy, so it's asking us to reflect and meditate. And Cups is tied to our emotions, so you can think of it flowing freely like water. In numerology, 4 is tied to structure, stability, and foundation. And when we draw the Four of Cups in reverse, it's telling us that we may have a deep attachment to the past, which may be keeping us from moving forward. Specifically, if we're in a current moment where we're not content with where we're at, we can't stay stuck in the past and replay old stories that we believe are anchoring us in place and preventing us from moving forward. Instead, we need to take the reflective and meditative nature of this card and look within, since we can't wait around for our outer situation to change. And we can't try to avoid our challenges or use the past as a scapegoat to stay stuck in our discontentment. Instead, we need to rely on our intuition to take strategic action that's in alignment with our wants so we can figure out how we can move forward and out of this rut. So, kicking it off, International Transgender Day of Visibility is recognized every March 31st and celebrates transgender people, raises awareness around discrimination, and acknowledges their contributions to society. Now, there is also Transgender Day of Remembrance on November 20th, which was established after Rita Hester, a Black transgender woman, was brutally stabbed to death in her apartment in Boston, Massachusetts in 1998. Following her murder, transgender women were tired of being targets and being dismissed by the press, which misgendered Rita. So they marched through her Boston neighborhood, which was the first Transgender Day of Remembrance. And while this is an important date, it's obviously very somber since it memorializes those who have been murdered as a result of transphobia. So in 2009, Rachel Crandall Crocker, a psychotherapist and transgender activist, created International Transgender Day of Visibility since she wanted people to have a moment of happiness. And a little background on Rachel. She graduated from Michigan State University in 1985 with a Master of Social Work degree and has worked as a licensed psychotherapist specializing in transgender issues since then. In 1997, when she came out as a trans woman, her marriage ended and she was also fired from her job at a small hospital. And that same year, she co-founded the community organization Transgender Michigan with her now wife, Susan Crocker. And the organization provides advocacy, support, and education for the transgender community in Michigan. She's a member of the National Association of Social Workers and provides training and education to therapists on transgender care. And in 2008, Rachel received the Liberty Bell Award from the State Bar of Michigan, which honors outstanding citizens within the local community. And in doing so, she became the first transgender person to receive the award. Now, back to 2009, Rachel made a Facebook post encouraging people to organize festivities in their hometowns to celebrate the trans community. And the date itself wasn't chosen because it was significant. It was more so because it was far enough away from Trans Day of Remembrance in November and Pride in June. And in its first year, Rachel organized a panel just outside of Detroit. By 2014, it was observed by activists across the world, and in 2021, Joe Biden became the first U.S. president to issue a formal presidential proclamation recognizing International Trans Day of Visibility. And today, it's recognized by millions around the world. And having that kind of visibility is important since, according to GLAAD, most Americans say they don't personally know someone who is transgender, which means for many people, the media becomes the first and sometimes only place they encounter trans lives. So portrayals of trans characters shape cultural understanding and model how audiences react to trans people in real life. And the 2020 documentary Disclosure points out that movies and TV shows have long misrepresented trans people in ways that reinforce fear, ridicule, and misunderstanding. Those narratives extend beyond the screen, influencing public opinion, policy debates, and everyday interactions. And this is especially critical at a time when we are living in such divisive political times that are villainizing trans people and threatening their right to exist. When news coverage excludes trans voices, even in stories about laws targeting them, it reinforces the harmful idea that trans people are subjects of debate rather than experts on their own experiences. For example, Media Matters recorded that the New York Times excluded the perspectives of transgender people from approximately 60% of its stories about anti-trans legislation. Framing discrimination as a quote-unquote culture clash or just asking questions obscures the reality that much of the rhetoric targeting trans communities is rooted in misinformation and coordinated attacks. And while we're talking about politics and misinformation, let's talk about International Transgender Day of Visibility in 2024. That year, it coincided with Easter Sunday. Now remember, International Transgender Day of Visibility is a fixed day that takes place every March 31st. Meanwhile, the Gregorian calendar recognizes Easter as the first Sunday after the Paschal full moon, which is the first full moon on or after March 21st. And as a result, Easter always falls between March 22nd and April 25th. But despite this, anti-trans conservatives incorrectly labeled International Transgender Day of Visibility as an attack on Christianity. And if you think they're mad about that, wait till you see how pissed they're going to be when they find out there was no oversized rabbit laying eggs to honor Jesus' resurrection. Anyway, on February 6, 2025, Trump issued the executive order eradicating anti-Christian bias, which claimed the reason for its creation was because of the previous year's International Transgender Day of Visibility. And as of recording this, the Trans Legislation Tracker, which is an independent research organization, is currently tracking 668 anti-trans bills across 40 states in 2026 so far. And just to put that into perspective, in 2021, there were 153 anti-trans bills, with 18 being passed. 2022 saw 174 anti-trans bills, with 26 being passed, and then it jumps in 2023 with 615 anti-trans bills, with 87 being passed. 2024 saw 701 anti-trans bills, with 51 being passed, and 2025 saw 1,022 anti-trans bills, with 126 being passed. So you can see there has been an extreme increase in legislation over the past 5 years. And the amount of anti-trans legislation that has been introduced so far in 2026 is more than 2021, 2022, and 2023, and closing in on the number of bills seen in 2024. And we're only a few months into the year. Of those 668 anti-trans bills introduced this year, 17 failed and 3 passed, leaving 648 active. And looking at the 3 that were passed, the first is Wisconsin Senate Bill 146, which prohibits individuals convicted of a violent crime from legally changing their name. And while this may not seem like an explicit threat to transgender people, it's important to remember that trans people are disproportionately represented in the criminal legal system due to higher rates of poverty, discrimination, homelessness, and survival-based offenses. So while this is a broader ban, it can affect transgender people at higher rates than the general population, and lacking identification that matches someone's name or gender presentation can increase the risks of outing, harassment, employment discrimination, and difficulty securing housing. Next is New Hampshire Senate Bill 268, which states that separating people based on biological sex can be justified to protect privacy and physical safety in certain settings like bathrooms. And this establishes legal language that reinforces the state's recognition of biological sex in defined contexts. And last is Kansas Senate Bill 244, which restricts changes to gender markers on official documents and limits access to certain public facilities based on sex assigned at birth. It also directs the state to invalidate and reissue driver's licenses and birth certificates if the listed sex marker does not align with the bill's definition, and it creates potential civil and criminal penalties tied to violations of the facility use provisions. And while these are state Senate bills, there are 108 national anti-trans bills. Again, we're only a few months into 2026 as I'm recording this, so those numbers are probably going to change. But as you can see, this is why transgender visibility and representation is so important. And whether or not we personally know someone who's trans, it's up to us to protect every member of our community. Obviously, it's important that we recognize our trans brothers and sisters and amplify the awareness around International Transgender Day of Visibility, but there's so much more we can do. For starters, watch Disclosure to understand how film and television have shaped public perceptions of trans people. Also, track anti-trans legislation in your state and contact your elected officials to express support for trans-inclusive policies. Sign trans-inclusive petitions like the ACLU's Protect Trans Care Now, Take the Pledge Support Trans Youth Now, and Protect Life-Saving Healthcare for Trans People petitions. If you're able to, consider donating to national advocacy groups like the Transgender Law Center or the Trevor Project. And in everyday life, normalize sharing pronouns, advocate for inclusive workplace policies like gender-neutral bathrooms, and correct misinformation. Because visibility is about dignity, and we all deserve to be truly seen and respected. And it's a shared responsibility of our community to ensure everyone, especially the most marginalized, has the right to exist. And connecting it back to the tarot, the Four of Cups in reverse, again, this card is full of emotion and reminding us that when we feel stuck, we need to look within and reflect on what's in our control. We can't hold on to the past or wait around for our situation to change. We need to figure out what actions we can take that are in alignment with our wants to get us on track towards success. And I think you can see that with today's episode. Rachel Crandall Crocker recognized the importance of Transgender Day of Remembrance, but also wanted a way to celebrate the trans community. And what resonated with her was organizing a local panel and sharing the event on Facebook. And from there, International Transgender Day of Visibility evolved into what it is today. And while today the LGBTQ plus community, and especially the trans community, are under attack from the current administration, none of us are just sitting around saying, gee, I hope everything works out in my favor. Instead, we see people across the country of all genders, of all sexualities, of all backgrounds, speaking out against injustice. And whether it's in our political or personal lives, it's important that we don't ever let ourselves stay stuck in a bad situation. It may not be easy, but somehow, some way, we will find a way to rise above. But we need to recognize what we need to be able to do that. Do we need to give our bodies a break? Do we need to lean on friends to listen to us? Do we need some time to go out and dance and allow ourselves to feel a little queer joy? Whatever it is, take the time to look within and feel the feels. And never forget the power of community, whether that's our family and friends, our local community, or the LGBTQ plus community. We are stronger together, and it's our collective responsibility to uplift each other. So I know this is a bit shorter of an episode, but there is still so much history and awareness we need to possess around issues facing the transgender community. And like I said in that list of actions, there's so much we can do to better educate ourselves, whether it's something as simple as watching the film Disclosure or getting involved in our community and protests. Because at the end of the day, regardless of how we identify or who we know, we are all one community. So definitely take some time today to reflect and educate yourself and see how you can be a positive change in someone's life. So thank you all for listening. If you have any questions or feedback, you can reach out to me, rob@ajadedgay.com. Also, let's keep the conversation going. Connect with myself and other listeners on our official Discord server, the LGBT Cuties Lounge. Also, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. 5 stars only. I greatly appreciate it. For more information on this topic, episode resources, blog posts, links to merchandise, socials, all that fun stuff, you can visit the website at jadedgay.com. You can connect with the podcast on Instagram, TikTok, SoundCloud, and YouTube at A Jaded Gay. You can follow me personally, Rob Loveless, on Instagram at Rob_Loveless. Also, if you're feeling generous, consider supporting the podcast on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. That gets you instant access to episodes ad-free a day early, plus exclusive monthly bonus content. Or if you just want to access the monthly bonus episodes, you can purchase them for $3 each. And if you're scared of commitment, don't worry, I get it. You can make a one-time donation on Buy Me a Coffee for any dollar amount, and both the Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee are at A Jaded Gay. And remember, every day is all we have, so you got to make your own happiness. Bye.